Hi, everybody. It's so good to catch up on another conversation. And today I've got somebody very special, somebody who's very close to me. The person I want to talk to you about, who I'm going to get into a conversation, is the lead pastor of the English service of New Life Assembly of God, Chennai, which is a 40,000 member multilingual church based right in the heart of Chennai. He is somebody who serves as the regional director of South Asia for the Lausanne movement, somebody who's closely associated with the Oral Roberts University, with Empower 21, and several other leadership movements. He is a man of faith and somebody who assists people in their journey of faith. A very talented musician, but I'd like to introduce him as the husband of Sumi and the father of Nathan. Ladies and gentlemen, pleasure to be in conversation with Chadwick, a very good friend of mine. Chad, so good to have you on this catch-up conversation.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you for your friendship, and thank you for all that you do in encouraging people all across the world. And joy and privilege to be part of this conversation, and I hope this would bless many.
Awesome. So, Chad, I think both of us belong to the 80s generation, right? It was a completely different world then. I know now we are living in a very unprecedented world, but 80s was a different world altogether. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that?
It was much more cooler. I have a son who's been born in 2006, and therefore it is truly a totally different world that we live in, and so it's sometimes very difficult to get my son out of the house to the outdoors. But on the other hand, I think during the 80s it was difficult for our parents to bring us back into our home because life after school was playgrounds, life after school was in some other compound in another person's house, and then we had a rule in our home that when it strikes 6, you better be in your home opening up your books. And so we wait till 5:59 and then rush and take a wash. And we do not know how the books are, whether it's upside down, but we make sure that we are home at 6 to do our studies. Whether we studied or not, we were compelled to do that.
Right.
But outdoors was the main thing. We enjoyed our outdoors in the 80s. And
so what was it? Was it street cricket
Yes, predominantly street cricket. While growing up, I had a privilege in the house that we lived. The owners were down and we were tenants upstairs. There was a narrow strip that led into the parking garage, and therefore that used to be our cricket pitch. Mm-hmm. But all of our 4s and 6s boundaries were on the road, and
right.
so it was like that we enjoyed cricket.
So, Chad, what were you? I mean, more were you the bookworm, more studious, or were you, more the playful type?
I don't know. Right from early on in life, no one taught me, but I've adopted this principle: play while you play, study while you study. And so, one of the things that even school teachers used to say is, "Hey, don't join with this guy because he'll be playful. He'll do all the things, but when it comes to studies, this guy is going to sit and study. So don't get deceived by this guy that is so playful and joyful. You guys don't know how to change and shift gears, but this guy has the ability to shift gears." And so that's been, I think even today, after taking on serious leadership issues and things like that, I love to enjoy when you need to enjoy and be serious when you have to be serious with what you need to do.
So I'm guessing you never got yourself into trouble in school. So never parents called to meet teacher and principal and all that.
No, I've never had an experience like that.
You missed that part, Chad. Let me tell you, that was so much fun now looking back.
It's never been part of my life where they call the parents for something. No.
Right. How would you describe your school life? I mean, which left a lot more impact on you? Was it school or was it college? What really, in a sense, kind of formed you?
I really think it was right from school. I enjoyed. I was someone who cried when the farewell party happened. I went and spoke to the principal of the school. Said, "Can't we have a a college attached to the school.
Oh,
I
really?
just graduate from here and still be part of it. I really enjoyed my schooling days, and those are the best days.
That was Alpha, right? If I'm not
I was
mistaken.
with Alpha.
So right from kindergarten to 12th, straight.
Yeah, from nursery, I cried to go to school when I was in, because the school was next door, and so they put me on a school in nursery, and then from there, sticking on to the same school till 12th standard, getting so acquainted with all of the teachers, and the teachers were the best friends, even more than the students that during my 10th, 11th, and 12th that I used to not take lunch from home because I would actually demand one of the teachers to bring an extra lunch.
Oh, wow.
That was the kind of enjoying situation that I went through in school.
Oh, wow. That's so good to hear. Now, your dad is a legend, really. Pastor Mohan, a man of impeccable character, integrity, a man of faith. It's so awesome to have a father like that. But I'm also guessing, could there be any pressure kind of living up to be the son of so and so, right? So everybody's kind of looking at you and evaluating you from that particular lens. So was that a pressure? And if so, how did you work that out?
It was a pressure. It was a huge pressure in the initial days of my life. At least in school days, it was not much of a pressure because they exempt you more like, okay, you're a child. I don't think that kind of a pressure was there, but the pressure was back in the faith community that I belonged, the church. And they would expect us, being a pastor's son, you need to be of a high quality, you need to be a model. And so that got on to me when I was growing up into the teens, and slowly when you are moving to 11th and 12th standard, it caught on because one of the things is like, I studied in a co-education school, and therefore we had fun. There was a gang of boys and girls that really enjoyed, and there was a particular girls' house near our school where at the end of the school timings we all would go enjoy our times together. I still remember one of the members of the church who lived just next door called up my dad and said, I think your son is going to get married to another religious person. And dad was very considerate, but at the same time, there was always a caution. There was always extra pair of eyes that was looking on to me. I was not allowed to. So certain times, I think when I go through life, there is a tendency. And so one of the greatest challenges of my life is to steer out of hypocrisy. Because you are someone, but you have to live for someone else's sake. And that was the greatest challenge of my life that I had to negotiate while steering out and maturing to become an adult. And some things that you learned as a child because of the pressure still tries to stick around you. You can't be yourself.
Right.
You have to start living for the sake of others. Although the pressure was not so much from my parents, the pressure was from people's
society.
Yeah. It was a huge pressure. At times I had to deal with issues of hypocrisy that I had to come out and say, hey, this is who I really am. I don't have to put up for somebody else. And when your life is getting steered on to what is right and what is wrong, then you can just live for yourself. And I'm first and foremost, I want to be accountable to a God who sees me.
Right.
And then I think I'm accountable truly to be true to myself.
Right.
And that was the most important learning, I think I would say, out of the pressure that I went through. That.
That's awesome. I think that's a amazing lesson there, which is allow your individuality, allow your uniqueness to come, be accountable to God, in a sense, be right to God, be right to man around, but be yourself, be who you're supposed to be. Thank you for sharing that. College, Chad, so all along, in a sense, Saidapet is where life was to a large extent. Now from Saidapet, you find yourself at Sidhuwani, Karunya, hostel life. Talk us through that. What did that teach you?
So shifting out of home life into a hostel life was such a drastic change. I couldn't manage the initial. I think the food was good in the hostel, but it was not as good as your mother's cooking and
Sure.
the pampering that you get at home. And now you got to live with four different kinds of people who come from different walks of life. They have different belief systems. Their ways are different, and therefore it's like two bunker beds, and it's all about who comes and occupies the room a little early. Or so there are several different things that you had to live and learn. And one of the things that I still learned is to sleep through. mm, it doesn't matter who is shouting or what kind of music goes on. You still can get your sleep. It doesn't matter whether the light is on or light is off. You still get your sleep. And so, hostel life is always an incredible life, and I think it really gears you up for relationships, all kinds of relationships. And so, by the time you go into the first 3 years, and the first 2 years, you are in a four-seater, and then you go into a triple-seater, and then you move into a single-seater. And I thought that the single-seater was the most boring part of the hostel life.
Yeah.
Well, other things, especially engineering, it was a very tough call because Max was not the best that I could, and so getting into engineering was a difficult process. In the first 6 months of my life, I struggled because I did not enjoy the subjects. But then it dawned on me that anything in life does not happen just by chance. There's a plan to it, and there is a sovereign will and a plan of a God who is in total control of your life. And so suddenly, 6 months down the line, I began to realize that the reason I am in Karunya was not just for engineering. It gave me all the educational qualification it needed, more than all of the educational qualification. The quality of people that came. There are NRI students. There were Malayalis there. There were people from Andhra, and so it was a rich South Indian mix that really made your mind think broader than Tamil.
Right.
And Karunya being a Christian institution, you had a lot of varieties of denominational people, and therefore you always grew up in a particular kind, and you thought that when you are the best and you have done the best. And suddenly now you are actually beginning to feel that there are other people from other walks of life, and they are having good character, and it's not just you and your cocoon understanding of where you come from. So an interlingual mix and the broadening of your mind with interdenominational Christianity and interreligious processing, that your mind becomes a little more broader than, and that's what I really enjoyed out of my college life.
Yeah. So it's like almost moving out of the aquarium into the ocean.
That's true.
So you get the perspective, you get the view. I know you also grow in the process in that. But there's something I need to ask you in terms of disappointment, right? I don't think your first choice was engineering. Your first choice was medicine, and tragically you missed it by I think a mark or two for no fault of yours.
That's true.
So tell us about that, and how did you overcome that disappointment?
I was all geared up only for medicine. So when I finished my 10th and I wanted to choose, see again, the issue is mathematics. So I used to mug up the sums, and I hoped that it would come within the first, all the 5-year question paper. And that was the educational system. And so you could master the educational tools. So when I finished 10th, I wanted to just take physics, chemistry, botany, and zoology, so pure science, so that I'll concentrate on being a doctor. But it was one of the teachers who called me and said, I do not know why I feel this, but she invited me to her home, gave some tea and vada, and she sat me down and said, I think you need to keep your options open. Don't narrow down your options too early. This is too early to narrow down. And I went out of the house disappointed, but somehow I felt like when I asked my parents, they said they were not in town. So sometimes my parents were out there, and you had to make your decisions on your own, and with the guidance of some of the elders, God had directed in such a way that I had taken along with Max. But then once again, after your 12th, I did not even write my engineering exam. And so I just wanted to pursue, because I was so confident that this is, and so when the marks came out, I was excited because I was sure shot you would actually enter into a medical college, and your marks were brilliant. You had good enough marks to get through. But then a very strange thing happened in 1992 when there was a court case that was put because there was something called a CBSE mark inflation issue. And they said, we will not take your 12th standard marks. We will take only your entrance exam marks for your entrance into a medical college. Instead, for 43.5 was the entrance cutoff for 1992, and I got 42.9, which means by mistake, if I would have chosen something right, I would have gone, because there was a negative marking for everything that was negative too. So it was interesting that you missed it by a whisker, and then you feel so disappointed. I remember, and I still remember those low times. You have memories of those low times. I came back so disappointed. I was entering into the restroom and sobbing and crying to the core because I was not able to handle this disappointment. But that night, one of the members of our church, and that's where I believe this faith community plays an important role. It's just not what I believe and what I enjoy about the faith that I belong to is that this is just not an individual relationship that I have with this God, but this is a community faith. And so I remember Kale Banan and his wife, Punitaka, came that night, spoke to my parents and said, I know it's going to be difficult for him, but can we take him out of this house? And they brought me into their home that night. Gave me good food. Good food to the stomach was always a game changer. Yeah. And so you ate that night, and they prayed with me and said, what if you really understand that God has a larger plan than what you think is needed? So then I kept arguing back and forth saying, no, but this is what I want to do, because even if I do this, I just want this to be done for God, and I have no desires of my own. I just wanted to serve people, and that's the reason I thought medical world would be the better. Always I had this heart to serve people, and therefore I thought medical world would be the best process and pathway for serving people. And so they explained, and sometimes they just allowed me to speak my mind. They didn't just keep counteracting, but just observed what I went through, but made sure that I slept that night, and brought me back into the home next day. And I struggled. I think the next 6 months I struggled with the disappointment, even after entering the Karnia.
Right.
God enabled me. Yeah.
So it took time. It took the right kind of people. And you have to go through that period of disappointment, right? It's not like a switch you can switch off the next day and feel the disappointment and go with it and kind of trust God in the process, is what I pick up from what you said.
Absolutely.
But when you look back now, Chad, medicine's not happened. Now you got the benefit of hindsight. How would you now, what would your perspective be? I mean, now you don't have medicine. Now you're a qualified engineer, management graduate, and being used so powerfully in across the world, if I have to say. What is your perspective of that missing that percentage decimal marks that you?
One of the things that has enabled me to really frame coin a word called life academics, because it's just not academics that really help your life.
Right.
It's life through the process. And so on the hindsight and going through life as such, I've come to realize, man, life is larger than anything that we can do or anything that we can achieve. Life is much, much, much larger. And there is a life work that is beyond your work life. And so this idea that you are being created for a whole set of good works prepared in advance for you to do is something that I believe with all of my heart. And I can tell you honestly, if there's one of the tools that I keep using with all the people that I train and all the people that I invest into. It's called Life to the Nth. Life to the Nth is going back and looking at your life through decades, like the first 10 years of your life, the second 10 years. And so when you mark where you are, and then especially it is so helpful for those who are in a midlife period, because they all are gearing up to analyze what's happened in their past, and they analyze what is their current situation, and they want to look forward to a great future. And so if you really look at your past and analyze, there are certain patterns, and there is a map to you, there's a pattern to you. And I would say, I don't regret today that I don't have a medical field, because at the end of it, I really realized that your passion is for people.
Right.
And if I don't do what I'm doing, I'll still, you take people out of me. And that's why COVID becomes a very difficult situation for me, because you're actually getting isolated from people. Of course, thank God for technology, thank God for Zoom calls, and thank God for all the wonderful things that are there. But now maybe the season is just to build your family, and they're your people. Maybe you're so concentrated on people outside. But we go through timelines and see what has happened. God is sovereign, and He has actually shaped your life a particular way. And those who can learn from the past, and even negative experiences, it's just not positive experiences. Sometimes negative experiences actually teach you more about what you need to be doing than even positive experience. Sometimes positive experiences should teach you what you shouldn't be doing. True. Negative experiences actually should teach you what you should be doing in the future. And that's how it is. Life has been so good with regards to understanding, man, you were created for grooming and shaping people.
Right.
What I learned through this process.
You, in a sense, are a groomer of leaders, right? When I look at your life and I look at the people that you've actually invested in terms of time, in terms of effort, in terms of teaching. So as a groomer of leaders, what do you think are some qualities people, who are entering the workforce or entering different places need to develop themselves to be part of a good team and to be effective in a team?
I really believe human beings are not created to be loners. We are called to be a community. And I think they really survive and process life much better. Their life is of much worth when they recognize and realize that they are part of a community. It's just not the philosophy of the world, and sometimes it's too much of a weightage is given to personal qualities, qualifications, and skills. I would say the real deal is actually how well you fare in relationships. So if you have, I've seen achievers are people who are not loners. Achievers are people. And especially if you want to really, you can be a marketplace leader who has great ideas about how to make money, but nobody is going to love you. Nobody's going to come along with you. Maybe they'll say, okay, he's good. Let him be shut in his own room. Let him give his job and let me do his job and supply what is needed. But if you really want to grow up and be an influencer, it's about people skills.
Right.
And so I would say we need to really harness the people skills. So basically you are made up of the qualities of how well you are able to manage your emotional quotient. And so sometimes you can't really be at your best and peak because you're emotionally not right.
Right.
Because the skills can be learned. I don't think anybody is creative dumb. Just that each one's gift and talent and ability and the learning styles are different. And therefore, if we can help people, the problem is the world wants to pass everyone through a single tunnel. And many people get left behind. Or you see seasons and times when certain skills, and for that matter, when I studied in 1992 to 96, they said, man, you got to be computer savvy. You've got to be IT oriented if you have to face Y2K. Therefore,
Yeah.
everything was about IT and everything was about computers. But since the past, now too much of computer and IT people, that people are not getting their jobs, and therefore
Yeah.
the world is going to go through ups and downs, through waxing and waning, and therefore you don't actually go along with the world. You actually understand and you mark out you are good in certain things. Life is not about money.
Yeah.
Life is larger than money, and therefore if you really understand that you can be part of a good community and grow. And so when I think about teams, there's too much of high individualism that is given in the world, that how can I be better? When I really understand life as, well, I'm not good at everything. I have a unique set. I'm uniquely created. And that uniqueness that the world talks about makes me understand that I need others. I need them desperately because I can't do it all.
Right.
The problem is the world's philosophy is so geared towards, and how can you be super, how can you be niche?
Right.
That's how your individual uniqueness is positioned. But I want to alter the way individual uniqueness is positioned. Hey, you are unique and so unique that you really need others.
Absolutely. I mean, so beautifully put, right? So you're talking uniqueness, you're talking people, which is community. You're talking about EQ, managing your EQ, because the skills can be learned. So fabulously put. And I think a lot of sense there. This morning I was thinking to myself, right? If you are created to be a deer in the jungle, just be the best deer, because that's when you're going to be successful. If you try to become the lion when you are a deer, you have zero chance of being successful.
That's true.
So accepting who you are and kind of working it out. Just a couple of more questions, Chad. Just want to check with you. Talent, right? How do you make a talent a gift? Because all of us have some form of talent. Maybe it's in different states, and it's very unique talent. For some, it's baking. For some, it's building businesses. For some, it's singing. For some, are serial entrepreneurs, right? So different talents, different stages. How do you convert a talent to a gift, according to you?
For me, I've through a very intentional process of leadership development and doing some studies on shaping and making of leaders, I've come across this most important. I call it the arrowhead, and there are stages to it. A talent does not become a gift and becomes a niche of your life without going through a process. Many of them want to be child prodigies. And what I've seen about child prodigies is that they actually shine too soon and fade off too soon. And so to go through a process, some of them are extremely gifted, and we need to acknowledge and they've learned and they've understood, and someone has helped them clear up the clutter so that they can sharpen out sooner. But in this arrowhead that I've seen is that you don't start actually sharp. You start with the phase of exploration. You explore what you're good at. And in this process, one of the most important things to do is to eliminate the things that you really know that you're not good at. Because concentration and where you focus your energies is so important, because most of us, so for example, I come from a background of a church where singing is so popular, and so everyone wants to sing, but not everyone can sing. Everyone can sing together, but they can't sing a solo. And so some of them, all through the days of their life, want to harness the talent of singing, but they're not actually gifted singers. And therefore, to eliminate those areas of life where you accept, it's okay. I'm not as good as Rajiv in these areas. I'm not as good as... So to come to that understanding of exploring and finding what are the few, because we're not gifted with all. They're gifted with few. Well, we may be talented in many things, but we are not masters of them. And therefore, identify and explore. So exploration phase is more about identification. And in this, crucial friends are needed, because someone who is able to tell you, sorry, Chad, don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do this. If you don't have such people, and if you only have those people who come and say, come on, do it, because so much the world is saying encouragement. Somebody has to speak the truth over your life.
And you got to be willing to accept it as well, right? When somebody tells you that.
It's disappointing, sometimes very disheartening, but you got to accept who you are gifted to be. And therefore, after your exploration stage, you identify a few areas that you are actually showing great alignment to, and then you move into what is called as a conceptualizing. It's the place where you concentrate on the few things that you are good at, and you actually conceptualize. This is who you want to be. This is who God has created you to be. This is who people appreciate you to be. And therefore, you start moving and conceptualizing, studying around it, researching around it, getting the best tools around it, exposing yourself to people and mentors who are good at this.
Right.
And then I really believe giftedness is something that comes at the matured phase of your life.
But it takes effort as well. Right? You can't just believe that you're good at it, and maybe you are good at it, but it's still in a raw form, right? So you need to hone that skill, which means a lot of effort, right?
Talents are raw, but I would say gift is matured.
Right.
You need to be gift-wise matured, and I like this acronym that I use, which is called SAGE. SAG. As you grow on in life, you are spiritually matured, and second is age-wise matured, and G is gift-wise matured, and E is experientially matured.
Wow, it's powerful.
You grow and become an experientially, gift-wise, age-wise, and spiritually matured person, and then you become realized. You become a sharpened tool, and that's when people seek you. And you are called to finish that small little niche job that is needed, and you're sought out for.
So what I pick up is then I need to be patient, perseverant, because there is a process involved and there's also time involved. And I think it's the synergy of the process and the time with a sprinkling of pain on top of it. Is what's going to bring that maturity out, right? The sharpness out, the arrowhead out, as you said.
I really think the world is actually losing out the best of people because we retire them at age 58 or 60. I think beyond 60, and if there's health to you, given which I believe is important for our lives, and if we can still mate out with health, I think the best of the age and best of life may actually start at 60.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's absolutely interesting. So clearly, there's not this concept of overnight success is pretty much a figment of imagination.
Sure. I think overnight success is only in terms of money, not in terms of life.
But even that could be. I mean, normally speaking, there is a evolution process in terms of how much you're going to earn, right? There is a process. Yeah, unless you get into business or
jackpot. I'm talking about jackpot success.
Yeah. But again, the challenge with the jackpot success is how do you manage that success? Because it can become a jackpot pitfall if you don't know how to manage that success and that cash as well. Awesome. So let me ask you this. We are now living, not bored of using this word, but that's the reality of it. Unprecedented times. Never seen these times before. We don't know what the post-COVID world is going to look like. What would your advice be to people, who are waiting to restart their careers or start a new career or whatever during this time, and wondering what's the new world going to look like, and therefore what should I be doing now as the new world emerges, especially that I'm in a lockdown? What are 2-3 things that you would like to share?
I'm really thinking there are some businesses are going to go through a very difficult phase of time post-COVID, and so we must be willing to shift and alter. So are we already thinking about it? Are we thinking about what will, if you're in a travel industry, it's going to be affected for sure. If you're in hospitality industry, it's going to be affecting you for sure. So in times like this, rather than just thinking and hoping, I think we are people who are understanding the times and have foresight into it, and we must be willing to do some alternate jobs.
Right.
Is there a possibility of a freelancing on your secondary skills? This is your primary business, and as you wait and hope for the primary business to be revived, and they're saying some of the primary businesses that you're doing post-COVID may take a year and a half, 2 years, if vaccines come through. And therefore, what are the alternate methods, and what are the alternate jobs that you can think of? What are your secondary skills that you can harness at this point of time? And if it's going to be one more month, can I join a course on that? Can I harness those skills? Is something that I would say we need to think through now. And one sure shot that I believe, which was my passion when I grew up in school, was the field of medicine. And so for guys who thinking about medicine, sure shot is one of the most toughest jobs. It's going to become more and more dangerous jobs. It's going to be qualified as a it's almost like your
high risk job.
Yeah. High risk job. Now, medical world, slowly, all those doctors who really enjoyed their success are finding it, and should I go and meet another patient now? So, but if you're really passionate about something that is going to be always existent, and you have a choice in a career in medicine is going to be a sure shot success career for the future, because this issue of sickness and difficulty in the world, and after this kind of a pandemic, I think it's created something in our hearts. We are always thinking, man, medical world is going to be a sure shot career. And so if you are preparing to be in medicine, go ahead. It's sure shot. You always have. One of the things is food industry, they said, but COVID times, food industry had to be shut down. But I don't think the medical world can ever be shut down, even if there are wars or anything that happens. Apart from that, I really think, and I'm not an expert on careers, and I will leave that to others, but I really feel there's going to be a huge divide. And this is where my heart is. There's going to be a huge divide between those who are rich and those who are poor. That is going to be the reality. I think if you're living in India, there's going to be a whole set of millions of people who are actually going to go below the poverty line. And so there's going to be a drastic shift. If you really want to be a person who loves humanity, you've got to bridge this gap between the rich and the poor. That means not everyone has the ability and the capacity, but some of them are going to still have money. And so the advice to those who have money is that you would not just go on another rampage of just seeing of how can I actually take or capitalize this difficult situation and make something for me or for my house or for my business or for my brand. But if you can shift your idea and say, hey, here I want to dedicate the rest of my life to bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. That means instead of stashing and hoarding, man, I need to really release and give. So quickly, within the first 2 weeks, we realized that close to around 1,400 families actually went without even one square meal a day in the community of people that I know personally.
Whoa.
Personally, in a sense of the extended church community. 1,400 people within the second week of COVID went with. So the only basic elements of, can we give them rice and dal, so that if nothing exists, they can actually make rice and dal and provide for their family. And that's how we need to start thinking post-COVID. It's not about hoarding, it's about giving.
Right.
How can I
bridge the gap? So just
just one more, just one more thought. And those who are actually having money or no money, I want you to know this is not time for you to spend on non-essentials. That extra table that you wanted to buy in the homes, no, that's not an essential. Or do you want to buy another piece of cloth? That's not an essential. It's time. It was so sad that we that in India, the first thing that had to be opened up post-COVID is alcohol, and the amount of money and the lines that stood up there. That means we are not thinking right. We're not thinking humanity. We're thinking just money and economy. And so that must change. That attitude must change. And people must be really seeing through what is core essential. And this is not time for us to invest in and splash money. This is time to hold money, but then how can we bridge the gap for those who don't have a means to it? So that's what I think.
Oh, that's wonderfully said. You spoke about skills, you spoke about being prepared to look for alternatives. Don't be stuck up in terms of a mindset that this is what I do, this is what I'll always do. But we are in times now when you have to consider at opportunities. I'm sure the new COVID world is going to throw new conditions and new opportunities, so leverage them. You also spoke about bridging the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and there's going to be a huge divide with the have-nots.
That's true.
And I think the mentality of those who are more fortunate, of how can you be, in a sense, that divide breaker and closing the gap, so to speak, and don't waste money on non-essentials, is what you said. So this is powerful, Chad. Really enjoyed the conversation. Really got to know the person behind the person we see on stage. So that was excellent. So happy that you could share all the personal details of your life, because I'm sure many who listen to this are going to be blessed and will also understand a perspective of the path that you have taken, right? You didn't just show up on stage, but you had to go through the grind, and all of us have to go through that grind. So grateful for who you are, for what you do, and continue to be a blessing. So blessed to call you a friend. Thank you, Chad, for this time.
Thank you, Rajiv. Greetings to your family, and stay safe and have a great time.
Thanks, Chad. God bless you.